right, guys, welcome to another episode of Side Quest Podcast, the unofficial podcast of Fitocracy. I want to thank you guys for being listeners. If you have not left a review yet on iTunes, please, as soon as you get done listening to this episode, head over there, leave a review, hit the subscribe button. That's what helps us move up the charts so more people can hear the awesome trainers that we're interviewing here. If you want to follow us on Twitter, again, check us out there at SideQuestFM. On Instagram as well at SideQuestFM. Search for us on Facebook, SideQuest Podcast. Like us there. Tell your friends about us. Leave comments. Join in the community, whatever we're talking about that day. And then check out the website as well, SideQuestPodcast.com. Blog post, all of the interviews go up there as well. And you can send us an email. And the guest I have tonight, I actually got an email from one of you guys. One of the listeners here asked me to reach out and get him on the show. I've had him on my radar for a while, but you know, just haven't got around and just been busy with the list of long names of lists of people that I want to get on the show. But it was great to get that email from a listener. So if you guys want me to reach out to someone, a coach that you work with, I will do my best to reach out to them and get them on the show as soon as I can. But my guest tonight is the writer at theaestheticbuild.com. He has Fitocracy classes going on at the moment. I believe the one he had for the winter was winter gains, how to bulk up in the winter and use that time of the year when you crave carbs and just want to sleep all day, every day, because it's dark by 4 o'clock and you get home from the gym and you're like, it's 6 o'clock. Why do I want to go to bed? Oh, it's winter. Anyways, he's a great writer, has some great posts over there, and a fantastic coach. And welcome to the show, Adam Duggan. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much for having me on here.
Oh, no problem. So let's talk a little bit about your background. How did you? Because we were chatting a little beforehand, and you do not have a degree in like physical fitness or anything. Right. You, as you said, you went the furthest away from math as you could.
Exactly.
So how did you kind of come to this?
It was kind of organically. So when I was younger, probably 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, I was my dad called it husky. And now it's frustrating because I know what he means. It's just chubby, like a little cherub. So I didn't see that personally. I would look in the mirror and I didn't see anything that was necessarily like unusual about my body or anything like that. You know, I was pretty happy-go-lucky. And then I started getting picked on, and that was fun. Not like I said, between probably going into middle school is where it got pretty rough. And you know, I was kind of poked fun at for being the heavier kid and everything. And so thankfully, I was naturally athletic and I was into sports and things like that. So I could still I had that outlet. But unlike a lot of people, like my body didn't change for the better while getting into the whole sports thing. So I decided, as I think probably a lot of us do, that the main impetus for change was girls.
Oh no, never. Yeah, girls never make a guy change ever.
Yeah, no, never, ever. We do lots of dumb things for them because they're pretty. But so I was like, well, it seems like girls like the skinny guys, like they like the skater kids or whatever. So I was always kind of I've heard you talk about being into like emo music and stuff before. So I was actually at like a musician, and that's what I played, and I still play, kind of in that vein. But anyways, I was like, well, that'll help me with like playing shows and confidence and things like that too, and this will be great, and I won't be picked on. So I kind of went to the other extreme, and I remember having days where, I've been tracking calories since I was, like I said, probably 12 or 13, and I would have days where I'd be like, okay, today I'm going to eat a Rice Krispie treat, and I will have a bowl of Fruit Loops. And if I ate more than that, I felt really disgusting. I felt terrible. And I ended up going from probably at 13 or 14 years old, 5'5", 5 or 5'6". I was probably at my heaviest, like 180. And by the time I was 16 or 17 or something like that, I was probably 5'9", 100, and I remember a day where the scale went up over 120 pounds, and I felt huge. And at that point, my parents had kind of told me that they thought maybe I had a problem, some sort of eating disorder, something. So I went to the doctor, and it turns out that I did, and I was borderline clinically anorexic. I remember the doctor saying that, and I wasn't really sure what it meant. I just knew that it meant that I had an issue with food. And so, sorry, this is turning into a tangent here, but I ended up being kind of hooked up with a friend from our church who was probably 22 or 23 at the time. He was a amateur bodybuilder, and at the time I thought he was massive. I thought this dude was absolutely huge. And looking back at it now, like, I'm probably about the same size right now that he was then. And I'm like, man, it's not big at all, but he seemed like Hercules to me. And he would more or less just bring me over to his house and be like, hey, man, let's lift some weights, let's hang out. And secretly, he was kind of planting this seed that was like, it's cool to eat. You can lift weights and eat and actually eat food and look good and feel good about yourself. And you don't have to starve yourself to like be popular and all this good stuff. And so I kind of got hooked. And like I said, went through school and everything, trained people kind of on and off throughout the latter years of high school and through college and things like that. So yeah, that's kind of how it started. I just kind of got the bug and started seeing my body change and realized that you could be healthy and you could eat food and you could still have like a nice body that girls would think looked good and all this kind of stuff. So that's kind of how it happened, I guess.
That's so I think it's very rare for men to really ever, at least it seems rare. Like in America, most of your eating disorders you see, women, plastered up as the case studies for it. Right. Anorexia, bulimia, or whatever it is. But to hear your story and how you suffered with it and how you battled through that, it's interesting to kind of hear a man's perspective, because we are so kind of inundated in the media with it's all women.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
So
yeah.
What was your biggest, how did you kind of come to peace with the terms of what, I can eat, and if I don't eat, I'm gonna, I'm doing more harm. How did you get over that mental block? Because you wanted to not be the husky kid. You wanted to be, fairly lean and skinny. But that kind of led to a mental food disorder. So how did you get over that? Was it just this guy at church, or do you still struggle with that?
No, I definitely still struggle with that. I mean, I think I'm so glad you brought this up about the whole kind of the other end of the spectrum as far as men and kind of body image issues and things like that. I still do struggle with it. I like to pride myself on being really authentic, and I still struggle with kind of that body image type thing. And I don't think you ever actually get completely and totally over it, because I always still have that kind of those thoughts and those kind of flashing back to those times getting picked on for being husky and chubby and not feeling good in my own skin. So it's definitely something that you deal with. But I think the biggest kind of driver for me anyway was probably my family. I remember my dad. We were sitting at the dinner table one time, and he said, "Adam, you've got to eat. You have to eat." And I remember him telling me later that he was really, really worried, because you could start to see dark circles under my eyes and things like that, where I was getting so just bone thin. And seeing kind of the look in my parents' eyes, I guess, probably was the main driver for me to finally kind of not even snap out of it, because there was no snap to it. It was like pulling teeth. It was a slow kind of process. I remember training with the bodybuilder guy, and we would just do typical bro stuff. We do curls and we do decline bench and all this other kind of stuff. And he would drive me back over to my house, and he would say, all right, tell me what you're going to do now. And the correct answer was always eat. Like, it had to be, it was a constant reminder that he had to give me, like, you need to eat. And I would say, what do I eat? And he would say, whatever. Don't worry about it. You know, and I think that, I went back to this day, he actually still is here in the city where I am, and runs a big gym here. And to this day, I'll see him every now and then and just say thanks, because he saw the bigger picture that I couldn't see at the time, and I think he kind of saw the road I was going down. And just to have, I'm the big brother. I have a brother that's 4 years younger than me, so I never had a big brother figure, and he kind of took on that role. And it was really cool to have this guy, and I could look at him and be like, wow, like he's built, he's strong, and he's telling me to do this. And so I just almost followed blindly what he was saying to do. And in some cases, you know, that can be not so much of a good thing, but his heart was definitely in the right place, and he really helped me a lot there. So a combination between my parents and just having somebody to look up to, someone to kind of follow in their footsteps, really helped me a lot.
Okay. So what was with you know, this gentleman kind of getting you in the gym and telling you to eat and constantly reminding you of that, but obviously besides eating, what's the most important thing that like he taught you that you still use today with clients or in your personal life outside of fitness?
I think one of the biggest things that he taught me is that fitness and training, whatever your goal may be, kind of starts where you are at the time, where you are at that very moment. I know when I first went over to his little gym that he had set up in his garage, like I didn't know what I was doing. I had absolutely no clue. I remember, it's funny the things that you remember in your head. Like I remember him being like, all right, we're going to do this thing called hammer curls. And I was like, oh, cool, what's a hammer curl? And it took me, for some reason, I wasn't like coordinated enough to do like a hammer curl. I would always want to curl it like a full like supinated curl or whatever. Yeah. And just kind of remembering those times where like he was willing to slow down with me and be like, here's what this is. It was the most basic movement to him, but to me it was this brand new thing. It was intimidating and it was scary, and you know the garage smelled like rubber plates and all this kind of stuff, you know, and it was just an intimidating thing. And it certainly helped me as a trainer now, both online and here at the gym that I own, to meet people where they are and kind of realize like, hey, I may tell somebody to swing a kettlebell, and they look at me like, you swing what? And I'm like, a kettlebell, it's this thing. And it's helped me kind of realize that like not everybody, like this is not, everybody doesn't live and breathe this. Everybody has not been exposed to this kind of fitness atmosphere, training atmosphere, and it's really important to kind of see where they are and take them from that point on, and not, you know, just be aware that they're intimidated and kind of freaked out about all this stuff, and just try, and like I said, try to meet them where they're at the moment.
Yeah, I think intimidation, especially for weights, are intimidating because I think everyone has this scary feeling of like, oh my God, I'm gonna drop this on my chest and I'm gonna kill myself. And you're like, okay, you know what? I'll just get on the treadmill. At least on the treadmill, I won't hurt myself.
Right. You don't think you will, but I've seen some awesome stuff on a treadmill before. So.
I mean, not everyone can be awesome on a treadmill. Like, okay, go and do a whole dance video.
That's very true. That's that takes extreme talent, extreme treadmill skills.
Yeah, it does. So talking about intimidation, are there things that you are still intimidated by that, like, if clients come in, you kind of have to be like, oh man, this, I'm kind of scared, but all right, I guess I'll try.
Oh, absolutely, man. Yeah, I've listened to several of your shows, and I think it's kind of a recurring theme with everyone. A heavy back squat is scary. It's scary. It's scary to look at that bar and think, okay, I'm now going to squat down below parallel, and if I don't stand back up, it is going to be up to me to bail on this weight and not crush myself. And I still get like that, and I tell people all the time, if you're not a little bit nervous, I don't think that you're training hard enough. And that's, you know, you can take that how you will. I just feel like training is a scary thing. It's something that you're going to kind of go into and be a little bit nervous because you're pushing your boundaries both mentally and physically. And I think that's important. I think it's cool. You know, you hear bros all the time like conquer the weights. You know what I mean? And but to an extent, it is really like that because you go in and you say, I'm not so sure I can do this. And I think I can't remember who I was listening to on your show. I think it was Jason from Anyman Fitness. And, you know, you go in and you're not sure if you can. Some days you get it, some days you don't. But when you leave, you know, you can leave saying, I gave that all I had. It was scary. Whether or not you actually made the lift, you still kind of overcame that fear and at least attempted it. And so I think that's a big component of like lifting in general. And I think you should be a little scared. I don't know if scared's the right word. You should. Intimidation I think is always going to be there, especially lifting and continuing to push yourself. I think that's just a part of it. It's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, because I feel like if you don't ever challenge yourself, and honestly, some of the most challenging things you can do are like, all right, I've been doing a dumbbell bench press. I need to challenge myself. Flip your grip around. Like, do a reverse grip. And it will amaze you how all of a sudden you're like, I can do 20 pounds lighter. Why is this 20 pounds lighter?
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I agree. The back squat is probably the most intimidating, is the most intimidating thing. Especially because there's been so much throughout the history of fitness where it's like, don't go below parallel. Keep your knees here. Do this. Don't squat. It's bad for your knees. Oh, my God, you can kill yourself squatting. Like, I'll be honest, front squats intimidate me more than back squats.
Yeah.
Only because that weight on my wrist, like, already all day I'm at a mouse, like, clicking a mouse and typing and doing all that. Like, it just – something about that scares me because I'm like, man – like, at least a back squat, I can sort of, like, sit down on my ass and kind of fall and, like, let the, like, thing catch it. But, like, a front squat, if I don't, like, I could land on my toes. Like, I don't know. I feel a little better with my back because, like, I can throw it backwards, forward.
Right. Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's just that classic fear of just kind of tilting forward into the wall, just kind of falling forward into the wall and being pinned against the wall. That's a pretty image.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was just thinking as you were talking about that I guess, like, I'm going to go a little Star Wars nerdy here, so excuse me.
I am a huge Star Wars nerd, so please, let's go.
Awesome, here we go. So I think there's a reason why I honestly, if you were to say, would you rather be a Jedi or a Sith, I would go with a Sith. And here's the reason why. The Sith use fear to conquer. They use fear to beat the things that they're afraid of. Whereas the Jedi are, like, afraid of that fear. And I'm like, nah, I want to be a Sith. Like, if I gotta fear and, like, use that fear to conquer whatever is there, it's like lifting weights.
Right. Oh yeah. No, I think fear is one of, if not the greatest motivator, you know, that we as humans have to deal with and kind of push through. I mean, fear of failure, fear of humiliation in one way or the other. I mean, fear can drive you to do some pretty fantastic things, and
it can also drive you to do absolutely nothing.
It also can. It just depends on which direction you go. So yeah, that's very true.
Yeah, it's interesting how like even just a few small couple steps and getting over fears and looking at them, you kind of realize, like, after you get by them, you're like, why was I afraid of that? I mean, life is kind of terrifying. You know, I wrote in one of the blog posts I wrote that I've had this kind of idea that I feel like human beings, as we've kind of got more urbanized and, like, after, like, the age of agriculture and we settled in the cities, there wasn't really anything for us to fight against. You know, I think that's, like, today is, you know, today was a really sad day for me because I grew up watching SportsCenter every morning and finding out that Stuart Scott died.
Oh yeah.
You know, like, I'm a huge North Carolina Tar Heels fan. Grew up in North Carolina, and watching him, you know, cheer the team on when he was there, and all the ways that he just made sports broadcasting so much better. But, you know, like, watching him and listening to him talk about this fight, there's something inspiring about all of it. And I feel like we kind of, as human beings, have we don't have a lot to fight for. Like now we're kind of like, oh, let's fight over who's better, Apple or Android.
Right. Oh yeah. For sure.
This stuff doesn't matter. You know, like we've conquered most, at least most, and I say that after Stuart Scott died of a horrible disease that is cancer. Like we've conquered most of the diseases. Like we live longer than we've ever lived before.
Right. Yeah.
So like the fears of getting out and doing things, don't necessarily restrict us anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I guess getting over that fear and seeing that you can conquer things is a huge motivator in and of itself. But then again, fear can kind of leave you sitting on the couch.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, it can. It can go either way. It's just kind of how you choose to deal with it, and I think that's yeah, it definitely.
Yeah, I choose to be like a Sith and shoot it with Force lightning. That's
there you go. So you've made the correct choice. Congratulations.
So a few questions here on a couple articles and things that you've written. So you wrote one about like the super-heroine physique, and a lot of women don't like lifting weights. They're afraid they're going to get bulky. Which, ladies, it ain't gonna happen. Never gonna happen unless you shoot up with like testosterone. It's not going to happen. You literally have 6 to 7 times less testosterone than men have. It ain't gonna happen. Like,
exactly.
Physiologically, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
but that fear is kind of still there.
Mm-hmm.
So you wrote kind of a program or an idea for like the female superhero and how to get that great muscle definition, but have the ability to be strong and look great. So who did you kind of model that after? Like, who's your favorite female superhero that you kind of took that model after?
Just kind of thinking back through when I wrote that was actually like in my little draft thing forever on the site. It just kind of sat there, and I would think about it, and I would add a little bit and take a little bit away. I really do think that less or not as much a superhero, but more of like a a physicality and modeled after somebody like Jessica Biel, like in the whole Blade Trinity stuff. I think just that the idea when you like watch that movie and you kind of see that she has an aesthetic build, like she obviously looks good, but her character and her in general, she can move, like she's strong. She's not just attractive. Like in a physical sense, like an aesthetic sense, like she actually can do something with that muscle that she has. There's a physicality to that character, and I think that's something that's missing, to be honest, in a lot of, and it's getting better. For as much as I'll rag on CrossFit as much as the next guy, but CrossFit has helped in that. I feel like it's given. It's created or given rise to popularity in big barbell movements, in conditioning sessions that are intense and all that kind of stuff. I think that's helped a lot, but I still think there's a lot of just that female demographic that is really afraid to lift some heavy weight and to sprint and push a prowler or because they just don't know what their body's going to turn into. And like you said, I mean, it's the odds are not good that you're going to end up looking big and bulky or whatever. I always tell people here that come to my gym, I just want to tone, I just want to do this, they wouldn't do that, and I understand what you're trying to say, and I try to turn that around and say, let me tell you what you're saying. You're saying that you want to build muscle at the rate which is natural for a female athlete. You are essentially wanting to do what every guy wants to do, except your body is just not going to respond the same way. And they're like, but I don't want to get bulky. And I'm like, oh, you're not. That's my best girl voice. I'm like, you're not gonna. Bulky is not going to happen. I don't deal in the kind of things that would cause bulkiness to happen to you. And I'll also tell you, I've been trying for the last 3 years to get bigger. And I'm a dude, and I'm in my mid to late 20s, and it's really hard for me. So I promise it is going to be next to impossible for you to do. but yeah, I still think that there's a lot of, again, fear out there of kind of what that end product is going to look like after heavy lifting and conditioning and things like that. And I just don't think that fear is warranted.
Okay. So again, it's like almost every interview I have, I write a question down, and somehow the guest I'm interviewing like makes their own segue into where I was going with my question.
Sweet.
So you talk about bulking. You say you've been trying to get a little bigger over 3 years, and I dabbled last year. And there's an article on the website that I wrote before this turned into the podcast website. It was sort of like my own kind of personal BS stuff that like I read, no one else read. But I wrote it about like what got you here won't get you there, and about how my time in like getting thinner and then trying to bulk up and the different things that I jumped over, the diets I jumped from, and the diets I jumped to, and the things I tried, and the things that worked, and things that didn't work. And it's so hard getting big because so much of the stuff that you read is like you got to eat this much protein, you got to take this, you got to do that, you got to eat like. And by the time like last year, like I got up to like 187 pounds ish with water weight on a bad day, like 184 on a good day. So like, and I felt plumpy.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a struggle, I think, when you're trying to add weight. So how do you determine the best calorie intake for a bulk, but keep fat at a minimum for your clients?
Yeah, no, I think that's
even for yourself, because I've been experimenting this fall, and now I'm gonna go back to about maintenance, maybe a little under maintenance, because my pants are getting a little tight. And my wife was like, "You're getting a little plumpy," and I'm like, "No, plumpy! You can't say the word plumpy."
You cannot say the word plumpy. That is a 4-letter word that's slightly more than 4 letters.
It's 1 letter more than 4.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's 2 more. Oops, I can't spell.
I'm not gonna try to spell while recording something live. Just like I'm not gonna do any. I don't care if it's the simplest math problem ever live, because I will inevitably screw it up and look like an idiot. So no spelling, no math for me. Just talking. Thank you.
So how do you determine the best calorie intake for a bulk and keep fat gain, at a minimum?
Yeah, I think so. I think the most important thing when it comes to, I don't care if you're trying to lean out or if you're trying to get bigger or whatever, is to establish a baseline measurement and then give that baseline enough time to kind of marinate, if you will, let your body kind of adjust to whatever that measurement is. And you can pick any arbitrary number works. You can say, I think that my maintenance is, and start with that number and say, I think my maintenance is. Start super low. It doesn't matter. You've only got time. So I think my maintenance is 2,300 calories a day. So I'm going to add 200 calories a day and eat 2,500 calories a day for a week, and I'm going to measure. I'm going to track. I'm going to make sure that I'm eating right around that calorie level, of course, with the appropriate macronutrients and things like that, which, if we're just talking about calories at this moment, just right around that level, and look and see what my weight did. If it didn't do too terribly much, then I know I'm probably right around maintenance. If it dropped, I'm probably in a little bit of a deficit, and if it kind of jumped up, I'm probably squeezing into a surplus, however minimal that may be. And I think what a lot of people do is they use they think, well, bulking, that means 3,000 calories a day. I don't know why in my head that's what I think. Whenever I think bulking, I think 3,000 calories, because
it's what I think as well. I don't know why, but for some reason 3,000 just sounds.
Sure. It's because it sounds delicious. That's what it is.
Yes, it does.
You know how much Cinnamon Toast Crunch you can fit in 3,000 calories.
Oh,
it is. It's a lot. It's a lot of Cinnamon Toast Crunch, my man. I'm telling you right now. Yeah, it's delicious.
That's the thing is I started to imbibe in a little more Ben and Jerry's on this little bulk cycle.
Oh yes.
And it's crazy because, in all honesty, like I weighed myself like 4 weeks difference, and I didn't gain anything. So I don't know what it was. But yeah, the pants were getting a little tight, so I was like,
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that people tend to have a calorie number that they think I'm going to definitely gain here, and I think you probably want to be closer to a calorie number that you think I might gain a little weight here, if that makes sense. So, instead of just kind of going in all or nothing, I'm a huge fan of super slow bulking. I mean, I don't think that there's any reason to go crazy, especially if you've achieved a level of leanness that you're like kind of comfortable with. I think that you can do a lot with that kind of newly improved insulin sensitivity and things like that at a lower body fat percentage, and you can kind of ride that for a long way. So I think doing things really, really slow is just going to be better in general.
So is that sort of like sort of almost like reverse dieting in a way, where you slowly add?
No, absolutely. Yeah. No, I think that I've recently listened to one of Lane Norton's, I think it's Physique Science Radio podcast, something like that. So Sohee Lee, she was talking on there about her kind of reverse dieting things, and they were both kind of going back and forth. And she made the point, and I thought that it was so cool to hear somebody else kind of say it, that you can reverse diet out of a maintenance phase. You know what I mean? And the reverse dieting just meaning adding stuff slowly back into your diet until you reach a level of whether it's body fat or weight, or reach a level of weight gain on a weekly basis, or however you're measuring it, that you feel comfortable with. And just sticking right there, and then when that plateaus, add a little bit more or whatever. I think it's so much easier to make a small change, find kind of the minimum effective dose, and kind of play with that. So if you make a small change, the likelihood of you overshooting it and really doing some damage that may take a little bit to go back the other direction, those little small changes I think are going to be much more successful in the long term than making these huge jumps at one time where you're not really sure if that's the right amount or not. I guess just better be safe than sorry, I guess, is kind of the way I look at it.
All right, so segueing into a question. So making small changes. So small, tiny baby steps, whether it's, for a couple of weeks adding like 50 calories in from what you've been eating, as opposed to doing what I did on my honeymoon, which was like, screw it, I'm not going to count any. If I had a time machine, I would go back and measure myself, because I really want to know if, like, from my cut to get ripped for my wedding to just like the plethora of haggis and beer and all the drinks I ate in Scotland.
Oh yeah.
How much muscle I actually built, because I know, like, after you come off a deficit and you start eating, like, your body will kind of be like, oh, we can build some muscle.
Dude.
I don't know. So that's the only time machine. Marty McFly, where are you when I need you?
Yeah, exactly.
So small steps and making small changes is probably the biggest thing anyone can do if they want to achieve a goal. Is break it. How do you eat an elephant? One piece at a time.
Right. Exactly.
Break it down into small increments. So what are the three most important, like, habits that you have to build for weight loss that you use?
So I think habit number one is probably going to be having a system of tracking, whatever that may be. Some people, depending on where you are, again, kind of going back to the beginning where we were talking about kind of meeting someone where they are, kind of saying, hey, do you want to track your macros? Is that something that you're interested in? And is it something you want to learn how to do? Is it something you already do? And if yes, then good. There's a good habit we want to hold on there. We want to have some measure of tracking. Some people don't want to track macros, and then I think it's up to whatever else you could track. Like, can I get someone to track the amount of protein they eat? Can they, or the sources of protein or whatever? Keep a food log, something. You have to have something to measure to make adjustments off of. Some people can diet kind of on the fly or whatever, but there's no way to, you may eliminate something and add something else in, and it makes this huge change, but you're not really exactly sure what was the driver for that change. So I think having some way to track things, whatever that may be, is probably important step number one. I think probably important step number two is having is sit down in the beginning and create a plan and commit to that plan, be that nutrition or your training program or whatever, and give that plan enough time to give it an honest assessment. I think that making a commitment to this whole fitness thing, it's a long process, no matter what you're trying to do. And like we talked earlier, I'm still in that process, and I've been training since I was 16, so 12 years ish. And it's not going to happen overnight. So you need to give the things you try enough time to work, and that kind of piggybacking off of that, I think that patience is something that needs to. I guess that's not necessarily even a step. It's more of a character trait that you need to embody during this process. So let's go back. So you want to have something to track. You want to kind of make the commitment, I think, to ride out a program for a little while and see if it works. And then I think probably the third step is going to be finding someone that like holds you accountable. I think having some sort of support system in place. These are all small steps, I know, and it's even some of them aren't necessarily like tangible steps, but having someone that whether it's a coach or a buddy or something like that, kind of having somebody there with you. I think that that understands what you're going through, someone that you can bounce things off of, and you can call them when you've had a rough day or whatever. I think that those are probably three little things that you need to get in place. So that's probably more like steps / habits, not necessarily just habits, but yeah, I have lots of thoughts on these things.
Oh yeah, and I think one of the biggest things I would tell anyone to do, and something I will eventually do once I get to once I pass the certification and become a trainer and coach people online as well, is that just for a week, I'm not going to tell you to worry about calories. I'm not going to tell you to worry about macros, any of that. Just track your food.
Yeah,
do it for 7 days. Build a habit of putting everything in for 7 days. Then we'll come back and we'll work on, because you've worked on getting that habit. You're a third of the way into establishing that habit. So now we're going to work on, eating better, but track everything.
Right.
I think that tracking, I agree, is one of the biggest things. And accountability and having people there to help support. And any of your listeners out there that hear this, you can email me at sidequestpodcast@gmail.com. If you need an accountability partner or just want to rant and need someone, we have Fitocracy for that. But I'll throw that out there as well. I have a few friends that I email with, and we're doing a 30-day hardcore challenge until the Super Bowl to kick off the year. And having those people there, having people that kind of help keep you in it is extremely important.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I think that's I would think that, kind of trying to get thoughts together here. I think that besides tracking, I think I would probably put that as the second most important thing, because I think you're not going to get too far of anywhere if you don't have something to measure progress and to kind of work out and work against and things like that. But having somebody there for you can just be like the guy who kind of got me started. Having a reminder, somebody saying, "Hey man, what are you going to do now? You're going to go eat." You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is super important, because this stuff is hard enough as it is, and it's even harder if you try to go it alone.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've learned throughout the whole process, and sorry guys, I had to plug in my computer there, so if the audio got a little weird, that's what it was. I think one of the things I've realized in all aspects of life is keeping that open communication and making that commitment and having something to work with or friends to work with. You can be a lone wolf, but it's eventually going to get a lot harder being the lone wolf. Like you're going to need a team, you're going to need help, and never be afraid to reach out for help in anything.
Absolutely.
So a couple more questions before we wind down. A couple of quick fire ones, and then I have one. We'll go back to a little earlier in the podcast, and I'll ask you something that popped in my head.
Okay.
So who inspires you either in fitness or outside of fitness?
This is interesting, because we did kind of talk about Stuart Scott a little bit. But I had cancer. I had neuroblastoma when I was 18 months old. And so I was treated at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis. And you want to talk about inspiration? These little kids fighting cancer day in and day out, having Christmas and birthday parties in the hospital while they're undergoing chemo and radiation and things like that. That's inspiring. Their families are inspiring. I actually worked for St. Jude for a little while in Memphis, and so we would go, like, we would eat. I didn't work in the hospital itself. I worked in their public relations and their donor relations department, but our campuses we're all on the same campus. So I would actually go over and eat in the hospital cafeteria and be around these kids who, they don't know what tomorrow holds, and they live absolutely every day to its fullest. You look at these kids and they don't have hair and they're wearing masks, and you just see their little eyes, but you can tell that they're smiling and they're just kids. And that's inspiring to me. Whenever I have a rough day at work or a bad training session or whatever, I mean, what is that? What is that in the big scheme of things, when you think that not just at St. Jude, but I mean all over the country and all over the world, there are people who, despite their circumstances, kind of have this like childlike attitude where they're just enjoying the time that they have. So to me, that's the biggest inspiration. It's just unbelievable. I almost get choked up talking about it. Just kind of thinking about what those kids are going through and their ability to just be kids still. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like. I mean, because even at the age, you don't really know.
Right.
Yeah. And it breaks my heart. It just, you see all those stories on ESPN as well. Yeah. So it kind of puts it into perspective, and like even today, I've still been trying to put my thoughts around it, because I mean, I never met the guy. I don't know the guy personally, but in a way, he defines so much of my early morning of high school, because like his one-liners were one-liners we would use while watching the Tar Heels play whoever, or while watching the Panthers play football. Like, we use those one-liners when those things happened. Or I would say something like, "Man, that guy's as cool as the other side of the pillow."
Yeah.
And, like he meant so much, and just his persona and the things that he brought, and then you hear his story, and it took me back to Jimmy V, and that he said in his speech, besides never give up, he said, if I laugh and I cry and I love, I've had one amazing day. If I do all three of those things, I've never had an incomplete day.
Absolutely.
And, as much as we talk about fitness, and as much as we talk about getting ourselves in shape and eating better and trying to keep ourselves from getting these horrible diseases and these things that can happen, when it comes down to it, even those things don't amount. The important things are our family, our friends, like those are what matter. And that's, it's like in my article I put up for why I train. That's why I train. I train because I want to be here longer. I could get hit by a bus. I could get the unlucky roll and get cancer at 30. I don't know, but I want to prolong it as much as I can, and I want to love and laugh and cry as hard as I push that barbell off my chest.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the intensity I want to bring to life and in everything I do.
Mm-hmm.
So a couple quick fun ones. What are your favorite ab strengthening or ab building exercises?
Gosh, we already said squats. You mentioned front squats too. Getting under a heavy front squat and dropping down and having to hold your torso upright. I think that's pretty fantastic ab exercise. I also do a lot of farmers carries and farmers walks and things like that. Single arm farmer walks, where you've got 135 pounds in one arm and the other arm has nothing, and you're having to hold yourself upright and walk. I'm not trying to sound super hardcore, but I'm doing those consistently. I don't see a huge need to do a whole lot of abs stuff. I think the whole abs are made in the kitchen thing. I really buy into that. I think you can look if you lift heavy, big compound movements that require a lot of smaller stabilizer muscles to kind of to chip in, and then you eat pretty clean. Clean. I said clean. I don't even know why I said clean. I just meant eat. I could go up on all these rants about like how awesome flexible dieting is, and I just use the word clean in the podcast. I need to be smacked. But if you have your diet in check, I'll say that. If you're eating an appropriate amount of calories and the right roundabout macronutrients in the correct ratios, I think you can have a pretty good looking set of abs without having to do a whole lot of extra stuff. Train like a powerlifter, eat like a bodybuilder. That flexible diets. There we go.
All right. What is your guilty pleasure track that you have on your workout mix that you would never admit to anyone? Like, if you own a gym, you go to the gym, no one's there, you put it on. If someone walked in the door, you would get a look on your face like, oh crap.
Oh gosh. So I told you that I toured around and played a little music, some acoustic indie emo type stuff like Dashboard Confessional, like all that. That's Dashboard Confessional is my favorite band ever in the history of the world. So people would be surprised if they came in and they heard Taylor Swift's live acoustic album, which is on my phone, and I get so into the acoustic version of Our Song. I think it's just such a good song. Sometimes I'll go home and play it on my guitar after I listen to it in the gym. Probably too much information. That's probably just way too much.
I'm a huge fan of acoustic music. I taught myself how to play guitar, not very well. I can play chords, don't really know key. Like I can't do. Can't solo, can't do any of that. I can play a G, I can play a C, I can play a D. Yeah. I can play country music there. I can make a career.
No, seriously, that's it. You're done.
And if I just get a capo, I can pretty much then play anything with just those three chords.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, that's all you need.
Acoustic music of anything. I mean, you can make an acoustic version of. Oh God, I hate to say it. You can make an acoustic version of like a not Metallica, of a Nickelback song, and I would probably be like, I like that.
You can. I tell everybody, you can like acoustic emo-fy anything, and people are like, oh dude, that's sick. That's so sick. You just took what would it be like? You just took some Jay-Z, put an acoustic guitar in there, dude. That's a hit.
There was a guy who did it's at the Nerdist episode with Ed Helms. If you go to the end of it, because they talk about it in the episode, he plays this guy who recorded a bluegrass version of All the Single Ladies.
Yes.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
It's incredible, right?
It's incredible, because you're like, wait a minute, and it's like old school, like bluegrass, like country hillbilly bluegrass. And it's amazing because you're just like, oh my God, this is really catchy and really good, like. Because you hear it and you think bluegrass, single ladies.
Oh yeah.
No, it's just a guy on a banjo, and it's a pretty good time.
That's awesome.
All right, so last question. I want to go back and ask this as we close out, because I do think it is eating disorders and things like that are still prevalent today. They are not where they were in, say, the mid to late 90s, even maybe the early turn of the millennium. We've kind of fought back, but they still exist. And for someone who, like yourself, did suffer through that, what would you tell someone if they're listening who might suffer, from something like that? Like, what's the one thing you would tell them to do?
I think probably the first thing would be to sit back, kind of like what you're talking about, and take a look at the big picture, and realize that there's more to life and more to loving who you are as a person than what the scale tells you. You are more than, and this could go for any of us fitness people also. You're more than your six pack. You're more than your 8% body fat. You're more than your bench press or your deadlift. Just the same as a high school girl is, so much more than you know, the social circles that she runs in, and you know, her boyfriend or whatever. Like there's more to being a person than just these kind of superficial things. And I think at the top of that list is a number that an electronic thing tells you. And you need to really kind of sit down and look at big picture and look at what things are really, really important, and what this way of thinking about food may keep you from experiencing. Because you know, obviously eating disorders have different levels of severity, but you know, at the top end, I mean, you're looking at a life or death situation there. And thankfully, I didn't ever get quite that far, but I was well on my way. And so I think my advice would be just to kind of like sit back and reflect and realize that you know, there's more to you than your weight, and there's more to you than what other people think about you too. You know, you bring something unique and special that nobody else can bring, and you need to embrace that and love that. And I know it sounds like a big kind of frou-frou, accept yourself type thing, but it really does needs to happen for you to be able to be okay with, like, you know, it's an emotional thing to gain weight anyway, and it's even harder when you've convinced yourself that gaining that weight does something to you as a person or makes you less of an attractive person or whatever. You know, and however that you need to kind of sit, like I said, sit down and look at the big picture and kind of reflect and realize how much more important you are than just that number is huge.
Okay. All right. So if people want to know more about you, Adam, where can they find you on the interwebs, on social media? And do you have any classes starting, you know, soon with Fitocracy? And are you wrapping up the winter bulk? Are you going into the spring summer cut? What's your next venture in coaching?
Yeah, so if somebody wants to read some of the stuff I've written, I write every now and then. Kind of like you said, I like it. I almost make notes to myself and write things that, you know, something will kind of pique my interest in, and I'll write about it and put it on the site, and that's at theaestheticbuild.com. So you can read some stuff there, and I'll randomly post something here or there. And then on Fitocracy, I do all of my online coaching now through Fitocracy. I had some one-on-one clients outside of that I kind of moved into the Fitocracy type area, and I just love the platform that Fitocracy provides. So I do all of my online coaching through there, and my username there is Adam Reid, R-E-I-D, Coach. That's my middle name, and that's kind of what my mom always called me when I got in trouble. So I decided to put that as my username, because that makes me feel like it's serious. So as far as programs go, I have a one-on-one coaching program that's like all personalized coaching, and that's TAB, which is the Aesthetic Build Personal Coaching. That's on Fitocracy. And then I have a kind of a brand of superhero muscle building and super-heroine muscle building programs that are on there also. And it's essentially a really cool way to get people to jump into a strength and conditioning program with kind of an aesthetics bias. So I have those running. I have a muscle building program that's primarily for dudes running right now, and I also have one that starts tomorrow that is kind of the first iteration of a female version of that, kind of targeted more at just getting that kind of female demographic into doing some real strength and conditioning and some, you know, again with an aesthetics bias. So those are all kind of jumping on there right now.
All right, cool. Well, guys, please head over and check Adam out at theaestheticbuild.com. He has some great stuff there. You can reach out to him if you're interested in getting in contact with him. Find his stuff on Fitocracy. Again, he has one-on-one coaching, which is usually a little pricier than the typical group setting, but you get one-on-one access with Adam there. I'm not sure when the episode's going up. It might go up a little after January 5th, but you do have the Super-heroine program starting. And like you said, you've got a few other ones out there. So yeah,
if you get one-on-one coaching, I'm super handsome too, so we can like talk via Skype all the time. So you know, it's a plus.
I think it's the first time I've had a guest be like, "Yo, I'm super handsome."
No, I'm just messing with you though. But still, I mean, whatever.
I mean, he is aesthetically pleasing. I can tell you.
It's where the website came from. You know what I mean? I'm totally
well, Adam, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an awesome time, guys. Again, please check him out, theaestheticbuild.com, or find him on Fitocracy as well. So, Adam, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All single ladies, 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 put your hands up. Up in the club, just broke up, doing my own thing. Decided to dip, now you wanna trip, cause another brother noticed me. I'm up on his, up on me, don't pay him any attention. Cried my tears, 3 long years, now you can't be mad at me. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Don't be mad when you see that he wants it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Oh, 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 oh. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Don't be mad when you see that he wants it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Oh, 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 I got grease on my legs, man on my hips, my tight, my dairy on jeans. Acting up with drinking my cup, and care less what you think. I don't need no permission, did I mention? Don't pay him any attention. You had your turn, now you're gonna learn what it really feels like to miss me. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Don't be mad when you see that he wants it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Oh, 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 oh. Don't treat me to the things of this world. Well, I'm not that kind of a girl. Your love is what I prefer. What I deserve is a man who will make me and take me and deliver me to a destiny, to infinity and beyond. So pull me in your arms, say I'm the one you own, because if you don't, you'll be alone and like a ghost. Well, I'll be gone. All the single ladies, 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 put your hands up. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Don't be mad when you see that he wants it. If you like it, then you should put a ring on it. Oh, 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 oh.